When first creating a project, you'll likely manually place nodes, such as your player or enemies, in your game world. Though as your game grows in complexity, you may need a more robust solution. If you're creating a roguelike, you will likely need to spawn enemies dynamically in your randomized dungeons. If the player is destroyed, they too will need to be spawned somewhere and by something. This is where game managers come into play. Let's look at how to build one now. First, let's create a root node of type node and rename it Game Manager. Let's then attach a script, leaving the defaults. For our needs, we can remove everything but the ready function for now. Let's get references to our player and enemy packed scenes that we want to instantiate. And then let's create a new number generator. Let's also then define the minimum and maximums of our desired spawn locations. This may need to be more complicated depending on your game, but for now, we'll define a large rectangle of -500 to 500. Now we can also define our minimums and maximums for other stats. For now, we'll go with stats such as strength, dexterity, and speed. Let's set a position for our player to spawn as well. Let's then set a max number of enemies to spawn, and now let's get into our ready function. In here, we can instantiate our player, add it as a child to the scene, and set its position. Let's also randomize some of the player's stats. Both our player and enemy have a few basic stats as mentioned above. We can then create a for loop to spawn our enemies. Inside the for loop, we'll instantiate an enemy, add it to our scene, give it a random x and y coordinate from our random number generator, clamped by our defined minimums and maximums, and then set that as the position. Let's also randomize some of its stats in the same manner as above. We can then print these stats to see them in the output as well. Let's then assign our player and enemy scenes to the Game Manager node, and then, each time we start our game, we can see our enemies spawn in different locations. We can also see the different stats print in the console, and feel our players' different randomized speed as they move around the game world. This is then the basic foundation for a game manager with randomized locations and stats for the players and enemies. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Alexander7289 for the question. For more tutorials, please check out Tundra Feed and Supply Company.